The UN chief, Antonio Guterres, says a multinational force, including police and military units, should be deployed to the Caribbean nation of Haiti to combat heavily armed gangs who've overpowered the police force. They're estimated to have seized control of some 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince.
With just the few belongings they can carry, these families are trying to reach safety. Gang violence in Haiti's capital is driving many out of their homes. By foot or motorcycle, they're forced to seek shelter in public squares and schools like this, left to feel like they're fending for themselves.
It wasn't the gang leaders who chased me out of my home. It was the Haitian state that chased me out of my home. And the Haitian state that killed all the people you see. Because it's the state that has the so-called legitimacy of violence. The state can witness the Grand Ravine gang taking over the streets and never do anything about it.
Haiti has faced years of economic, security and political crisis. Crime and poverty has escalated since former President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in 2021, and current Prime Minister Ariel Henry has struggled to stem the unrest. Human Rights Watch says rapes, killings and kidnappings by criminal groups have risen dramatically since the start of the year. It's triggered anger on the streets, with thousands of protesters calling on authorities to provide more protection and aid.
We lost our policemen who were helping us fight the gangs. They bled all night.
Rights groups are appealing for more action to address the crisis in Haiti. The UN chief is calling on the international community to deploy a multinational force to combat gang violence. Kenya is the latest country to consider taking the lead to bring law and order.
For more on this, I'm joined by Ida Sawyer, who is the Director of the Crisis and Conflict Division at Human Rights Watch. Welcome to DW. So, as we've seen in the report, which has touched on many of the issues that people in Haiti are dealing with, tell us, though, what life is actually like for people living there right now. What kind of support do they need?
Thanks for having me. So we found when we were in Haiti recently that the country is really facing an unprecedented human rights, humanitarian, political, and security crisis. There's been an alarming increase in killings and kidnappings and rampant sexual violence since the start of the year, and violent criminal groups are now controlling nearly all of the metropolitan area of Port-au-Prince, the capital. Many of the Haitians who we interviewed said that the situation in Haiti today is worse now than at any time they remember. And I was really struck by the just palpable feelings of terror, fear, abandonment, and hunger from the people we spoke with. Since the start of the year, these groups have killed at least 2,000 people, they've kidnapped over 1,000 others, they've looted and burned homes, and they've committed widespread sexual violence in their efforts to control, terrorize, or punish residents who they accuse of supporting rival groups. And in addition to this horrific violence, people we interviewed also told us repeatedly about how they're struggling to feed their families. Their children had constant stomach problems because they don't have access to clean water. They couldn't access healthcare or send their children to school. And many have been forced to flee their neighborhoods after their homes were burned down. And they're sleeping in open-air shelters with little or no humanitarian assistance. We also have looked at the context in which this violence and this humanitarian catastrophe are occurring, including with clear state complicity and inaction, alleged collusion between criminal groups and political, economic, and security actors, and a crisis of democracy and real rampant impunity.
So it's a really dire situation in Haiti, from what you're telling us and from this report. So let's touch on the criminal groups, which you mentioned there. Your report finds that there's approximately 150 criminal groups operating in the capital, Port-au-Prince. How did it get to this point?
So we've seen the security situation has been bad in Haiti for a while, but we've seen it really deteriorate over the past 2 years since the assassination of the former president and since the current Prime Minister Ariel Henry came to power about a little over 2 years ago. And these criminal groups that now operate in nearly all of the capital, they have ties to political officials, to influential economic actors to members of the police. Some police officers are, police officers by day and members of these criminal groups by night. And we're just seeing the state being, incapable or unwilling to get a hold of the problem and restore state authority. Two of the main criminal alliances that are operating in the capital are the JPEP and the G9, which are composed of a number of different groups. And we saw some of the worst violence in Cité Soleil, and
Right.
there, the Brooklyn neighborhood, this area is controlled by one group, surrounded by an area controlled by the other group, and the G9 just routinely killed and gang raped people trying to leave the area controlled by one of the coalitions to get to the city center. And people are just stuck between needing to feed their families, get into the city center, but knowing that they could face being killed or raped along the way.
It's an incredibly complex situation, it appears. Now, briefly, if you could, we've seen that the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, says a multinational force should be deployed to Haiti. But how quickly could we see that happening?
So the Kenyans have offered to consider leading this force. They're due to send a technical mission to New York and then on to Port-au-Prince. We've heard later this week to do an assessment of the needs and how the force would operate. The UN is also looking for other countries to contribute. So it's not going to happen right away, but there does seem to be more movement towards the deployment of this multinational force.
Ida Sawyer, the Director of the Crisis and Conflict Division at Human Rights Watch. Thank you for joining us on DW.
Thanks for having me.
Brian Concannon is a human rights lawyer and the Executive Director of the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, and he joins us now from Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to DW. So, the latest emergency in Haiti's capital is just, we'll call it a snapshot of a country facing multiple crises. So give us a sense, if you could, of what it's like living in Haiti today.
Well, I think the footage that you just showed gives a good sense. Haitians describe it as literally living in hell. Over 200,000 people are displaced. Over 100,000 children are facing wasting hunger this year. There's not a single elected official in office. Gangs control large parts of the country. And it's the type of situation you see typically in a situation of civil war or massive natural disaster. But Haiti hasn't had any. This is the result of the steady dismantling of democracy by the current government, as one of the interviewees said in that clip.
Now, the UN Secretary General has called for a robust use of force to restore order. Now, is that actually what's needed? Is armed intervention really needed as a first step to begin to solve the mountain of issues that Haiti is dealing with?
Haitians will tell you, and they've been telling anybody who will listen, that the first step is that the international community needs to stop propping up the repressive government, that there's no chance that you can have a security situation as long as you have a government that, as the clip showed, is complicit in this. The government has been collaborating with gangs to take over neighborhoods that are dominated by opposition parties. One of the top gang members, Vitalo Innocent, is driving around in official plates. Over half of police officers have some connections to gangs. You can't just send in international police to support the same government that's brought this problem and expect it to be any different. What Haitians are saying is the international community needs to stop supporting the repressive government and allowing a consensus government to take over. Once you have a legitimate government in place, then they can ask for help from the international community. They can legitimately decide how the international community can help them fight insecurity.
But in order to achieve that and rebuild the country's institutions, what is it exactly that they need then? How are they going to go about rebuilding the country's institutions if they're in such a dire situation?
I mean, first you need to, Haitians keep yelling this to anybody who will listen, and not many people listen. You need to stop supporting the repressive government that created this situation. That is absolutely the first step before anything can happen. Once that happens, there are several viable Haitian solutions that have been put on the table, but that the international community and the Haitian government have blocked. There's been some very good consensus-oriented plans that develop broad popular support in order to move forward. And basically, most of the plans involve some kind of transitional government whose job it is to establish security and run fair elections. And most Haitian civil society leaders think that that is possible, but that Haitians just need to be given a chance, which isn't going to happen as long as you have the current government in power.
But why has this actually been blocked? Why has it not actually happened?
The international community has decided that's led by the United States, but includes Secretary General Guterres, has decided that the current authorities in Haiti are the best vehicle for moving Haiti forward. Haitians strongly disagree, and I think if you look at the numbers, the displaced, the lack of any government elected officials in place, it's hard to justify continuing the same path, but the UN and the US keep doing this. And one example of how adamant they are, in 2019, the head of the UN's Justice Mission in Haiti issued a communique calling for accountability for police massacres. She was pushed out of the country and without any defense by the US or the UN, and replaced with someone who's again went back to being supportive of the current regime.
Do you see any grassroots initiatives among Haitians to help society heal?
There's hundreds of them. I mean, Haitians are every day they're meeting, they're protesting, they're writing articles. I mean, Haiti has a really robust civil society that can heal Haiti. They just need to be given the choice. But instead of given the chance, there's top-down solutions imposed by the international community that are preventing Haitian solutions from working.
Can Haiti's problems be traced, at least in part, to its colonial past?
Certainly. I mean, Haitians will, if you ask them to explain the current situation, they'll start back with slavery and independence in 1804. In 1804, the world, which was run by slave-owning countries, they did their best to make sure that Haiti would not work. No one would recognize Haiti. They slapped an embargo on the country, and they forced Haiti to pay a huge, crippling independence debt. Haitians say it's the exact same policy now, where the international community is imposing repressive governments and not allowing Haitians to create their own democracy and to succeed in the way that Haitians want to build their own country.
How optimistic are you for Haiti and Haitians?
I'm optimistic when I think of the Haitians that are fighting every day to bring democracy back and who are fighting for justice and taking enormous risks to do so. I'm pessimistic when I read Secretary General Guterres's letter that he talked about a broad range of options for the UN, but not one of them was the one that Haitians are asking for, which is to stop supporting the repressive government.
A very complex situation, that's for sure. Brian Concannon, Executive Director of the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. Thanks for joining us on The Day.
Well, thank you for having me.